In this session, we'll try to understand these aspects of DNA replication. But before we begin, make sure you have revised these concepts that you have already studied in your previous classes. DNA replication is the process of duplication of DNA in a cell. Now, when is this duplication or DNA replication needed? Among the characteristics of genetic materials, one of the very important characteristic is the ability to replicate itself accurately. And not just accurately, but fast. But why would a cell replicate its DNA? When would it need to form a copy of its DNA? When the cell is about to divide. A prokaryotic cell divides once in 20 minutes. This is its cell cycle. A eukaryotic cell completes its cell cycle in 24 hours. But as you have studied in previous classes, the cell cycle consists of 4 phases. The mitotic phase or the phase of actual cell division is only 1 hour of the 24-hour cell cycle. It is followed by a long interphase. The interphase is not just long, it is divided into 3 phases, G1, S and G2. Of this, S phase is the one where DNA replication takes place and S phase is approximately 8 hours. If you recall that human DNA has 6.6 into 10 to the power 9 base pairs that need to be replicated. 8 hours means that the replication should proceed at the rate of 50 bases per second or 50 base pairs per second. So DNA replication is required whenever the cell divides. It needs to be fast and it needs to be error free. That is, the newly formed DNA should be same as original. So how is DNA replicated? There can be 3 options on how DNA replication can take place. The original DNA can be completely broken down and some old and some new pieces can be used to make 2 new DNA. So in this way, both strands will have some old and some new material. This mechanism can be called dispersive replication. The second method can be that original DNA is not disturbed, but a new DNA is made de novo, that is from completely new nucleotides. This method is known as conservative. Another mechanism is also possible where the 2 strands of DNA separate. Then each strand makes its own complementary DNA. So both DNA formed have one old strand and one new. This mechanism is known as semi-conservative. So which of these is the correct mechanism? Let's see. Now, before we start studying the experimental proof, some data. The experimental proof was given by Michelson and Stahl. The organism used was E. coli and the material used was culture medium with heavy nitrogen. Heavy nitrogen is an isotope of nitrogen. Normal nitrogen has a mass number of 14. Heavy has a mass number of 15, making it heavier. The technique used was density gradient centrifugation using cesium chloride as the gradient. The hypothesis that they wanted to test through this experiment was that DNA replication is semi-conservative. Now, before we proceed, what is density gradient centrifugation? a sample containing a mixture of substances with different densities is taken in a test tube. The test tube is placed in a centrifuge and the rotor is spun at a very high speed. Now, as a result of the centrifugal force, the components of mixture are separated based on their density. Here we are concerned with 14N and 15N. So this is what should be obtained. Two bands, one for 14 and one for 15. Step 1. E. coli is grown in a medium with 15N as the source of nitrogen for several generations, so that all nitrogen in the bacterial cells is only 15N. Step 2. The 15N is used by bacteria to make its new DNA, so that gradually all DNA in it gets incorporated with heavy nitrogen. Now the DNA of the bacteria is heavy DNA. These heavy DNA can be separated from normal DNA by density gradient centrifugation. Step 3. A small sample of E. coli is taken and density gradient centrifugation is performed. At this time, let's call it 0 minutes, only one band is obtained and this band corresponds to heavy DNA, that is 15N DNA. Now the bacteria is transferred to normal N14 medium. This is step 4. E. coli divides every 20 minutes. So every 20 minutes its DNA is being replicated. Therefore, after every 20-minute interval, a sample of bacteria is taken and density gradient centrifugation is performed and bands are recorded. This is what was observed. At 0 minutes, all heavy nitrogen. At 20 minutes, neither 15N nor 14N bands were obtained. The band obtained was somewhere of intermediate density, in between 15 and 14N. So in all probability, the DNA at this stage was a mixture of the old DNA with 15N and the new DNA with the 14N. At 40 minutes, two bands, one 14N and one intermediate, and at 60 minutes again two bands, but this time normal band, that is 14N, was much more intense, showing higher concentration of 14N DNA. Now what does this mean? Had replication been conservative, one heavy and one light band would have been obtained right from first generation. If it had been dispersive, only intermediate bands would have been obtained in all generations. But since it is semi-conservative, first generation gave intermediate bands and then intermediate and light bands both were obtained. Hence, the hypothesis that DNA replication is semi-conservative is proved. But these experiments by Michelson and Stahl were on bacteria, a prokaryote. Similar experiments were repeated in eukaryote. Now let's see what all is required for DNA replication. First, the enzymes. The first one is DNA-dependent DNA polymerase. Its function is there in its name, so let's break the name. First, DNA polymerase. DNA is a polynucleotide, so forming new DNA means adding nucleotides to form polymers or polymerization. So the enzyme, due to its actual function, is known as DNA polymerase. Now we just saw that the old DNA double strand separates and each of the single strand acts as a template for formation of a new double strand or a new strand. So the new strand is formed on the basis of the old one. Hence, the first part of the name, DNA dependent. Now this enzyme is very efficient, it's fast. E. coli that has only 4.6 into 10 to the power 6 base pair and it takes only 18 minutes to replicate it, which means an average rate of polymerization of around 2000 base pairs per second. Not just fast, it is accurate too, because any mistake during replication would result in its mutations. And you already saw that mutations result in genetic disorders. So to ensure accuracy, this enzyme also acts as a proofreader. Finally, this enzyme polymerizes only in one direction, that is 5' to 3'. This leads to a small complication, but we'll see that later. First, the remaining enzymes. Replication of DNA requires that the double strand of DNA is unbound. Single strand is formed. This is like unzipping. The process of separation of strands is facilitated by the enzyme DNA helicase, the one which opens the helix. The point where the separation of strand takes place is known as replication fork. When you open a supercoiled structure, a tension is created in that structure. Now there are two enzymes which help in this uncoiling: topoisomerase and DNA gyrase. And then finally there is DNA ligase, which joins the discontinuous piece of DNA to form a continuous chain. Besides the enzyme, the ingredients and a source of energy are required. DNA replication is energetically very expensive process, and the source of energy is same as the ingredients needed for DNA synthesis. That is the nucleotides or the deoxyribonucleotide triphosphates, the DNTPs. So DNTPs have a double role. They act as source of energy. ATP, you know, hydrolyzes to form ADP and inorganic phosphate, and this produces a huge amount of energy. DNTPs also are the raw materials which are polymerized to produce the DNA. So ATP, GTP, CTP and TTP. Now the steps. There is a specific region in E. coli DNA where the replication begins, and this region is known as the origin of replication. DNA polymerase will bind at this ORI site, and then the parent strands partially opens to form a replication fork. So you see, DNA polymerase on their own cannot initiate the process of replication. They need the ORI gene to begin the process, and then only the parent strand opens and forms the replication fork. Now these are the two anti-parallel strands, one running in 5' to 3' direction and the other running in 3' to 5' direction. Our enzyme also has to move in this direction only, that is 5' to 3'. So as the DNA opens up, the replication fork is formed. The DNA polymerase moves with it on this strand. Since it has to synthesize in 5' to 3' direction, it will look for the 3' end of the parent strand so that it can bind there, and from there the synthesis of the new strand will start. So let's just stick to now this parent strand. The DNA polymerase binds here and starts forming the new strands in this direction. Now here the direction of movement of DNA polymerase is same as the direction of movement of replication fork, that is upwards in this diagram. So a continuous unzipping of replication fork followed by a continuous synthesis of the new strand takes place, and this leads to formation of a new continuous DNA strand. But let's go on the other side. Here the replication fork has an opposite direction to the direction of movement of DNA polymerase. DNA polymerase has to bind at the 3' end, while the replication fork is moving in this direction, that is from 5' to 3'. So DNA polymerase will have to wait for the replication fork to open up for some time for a certain length, bind there and make this portion of DNA using this template strand. So it binds here at the 3' end and makes the DNA in the direction of 5' to 3'. Then this portion of replication fork opens and it binds here, and the second DNA strand is formed, and then here, and the third part of the DNA strand is formed. So here the DNA strands formed is not continuous but discontinuous, while in the previous one continuous synthesis of DNA was taking place. Now in discontinuous synthesis, fragments of DNA or pieces of DNA are formed, and these fragments are known as Okazaki fragments. Now let's just revisit these concepts. On one strand, the template with a polarity of 3' to 5', the replication is continuous, and this strand is known as the leading strand. On the other, the template with the polarity of 5' to 3', it is discontinuous, for the lagging strand is formed. The discontinuous synthesized fragments are known as Okazaki fragments, and these Okazaki fragments are later joined by using the enzyme DNA ligase. Now let's revisit the cell cycle. We saw that DNA replication takes place in S phase. Then there is the G2 phase and then mitosis. So before mitosis, 2 copies of DNA are already present. Now, what if mitosis does not take place? It will cause polyploidy, a chromosomal disorder we discussed in previous chapter on genetics. Now with this we come to the end of your session on DNA replication. These are some revision questions. Practice these. Watch the video if you are not able to answer the question, or drop a comment. We'll discuss. Thank you and bye-bye.